Excellent. Okay, perfect. So thank you for joining us today for our EAP Lunch and Learn. My name is Erin. I am one of the EAP counselors here with the Ascension Employee Assistance Program. And today we are going to talk about a really important topic about life alignment, work-life balance, and things like that, something we're always striving for. But before we do that, I just want to take a minute to mention a little bit about the EAP benefit. I hope you're joining us today. You are familiar with the EAP benefit, otherwise, you likely might not be here. But I just want to take a minute to just overview what that benefit is in case it's something that's new for you or you're unsure. Your EAP benefit provides short-term, solution-focused confidential counseling for you as an employee of the company where you work. This benefit is available to you as the employee. It's available to your spouses or your partners and any domestic dependent, dependent kids that you have living in your house. We meet with people in person based on your location. We have some offices spread out throughout the state of Wisconsin. So, depending on your area, we might be able to meet with you in person. We also offer virtual counseling over the computer and telephone counseling as well. The EAP benefit is really a great benefit, sometimes the most underused benefit that's available for people. We can provide support around workplace concerns, personal concerns outside of work related to family or home or relationships. And we also offer individual one-on-one couple or individual counseling, family counseling, and couples counseling as well. So there are a variety of different ways that you can connect with us. I will, at the last slide of the presentation, will list all of our contact information, our phone number, our email address, and a link to our website if you are interested in learning more or connecting with us to learn more about the EAP benefit. So that's what we do. And when we're not busy or when we're not one-on-one meeting with people doing counseling sessions, we get to provide presentations like this for the employees and the companies that we support. And that's what brings us here for this lunch and learn seeking life alignment presentation today. So I just want to mention as we start off here, virtual presentations are great and they're really helpful, but sometimes they're a challenge because we don't have the same interaction that we would have normally. So please feel free to use the chat. I'm going to try to monitor the chat as I'm facilitating the presentation. Sometimes I'm a little clunky with that, but you can certainly use the chat to communicate with one another, to ask me a question. If I'm not seeing something in the chat, definitely like unmute yourself and draw that to my attention. That's okay too. So definitely want to make this as interactive as we can, even though we're in this virtual format. So we're going to start off today talking about work-life balance. I'm sure this is something that we have all heard before, but essentially when we're talking about work-life balance, we're talking about the amount of time you spend at work doing your job versus the amount of time you spend outside of work doing things that are important to you. So for some people, work-life balance comes pretty easy. Maybe you can think of someone, a coworker or a friend is who is really, really good with this and you kind of look up to them for their abilities to find that balance. And for other people, it is really difficult to find that balance between work life and home life. And so the good news is that it's possible to find some skills and find some strategies to help attain that work life balance and help make that feel a little bit easier. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to learn about work-life balance and then a relatively new concept around life alignment. We're going to talk about steps that you can do to create more alignment within your life. And we're going to talk about some strategies that can help you along that journey to reach that life alignment across the different areas of your life that are important to you. So that's what we're going to do today. We are going to start quick with a reflection. If you could just think for a minute, and you can keep this to yourself, you don't have to share, but just think for a minute what work-life balance is like for you. Is it easy to attain that work-life balance? And if so, what is easy about it for you? Does it just come naturally? Is it something you've found a process for? And what's challenging about work-life balance? If that's something that's really hard for you, what makes work-life balance challenging? I know for me, work-life balance can definitely be a challenge sometimes. And just the busyness of the schedule with right work and home and caring for an aging family member and raising kids, it's just hard to fit all the different pieces in. And I think there are probably a lot of people in a similar position. Life is so much busier today than it was 20 or 30 years ago, and finding that balance can be really tricky. So sometimes when we're thinking about balance, um, right, we think about trying to find that balance between work and home life, but there are some new ideas coming forward around this concept of alignment instead of balance. And so alignment is really simply aligning all of the different priorities in your life, so they fit together well, so they feel manageable. And the concept of balance assumes that everything has to be fair and even, right? Like we're spending a certain amount of time at work, we're spending a certain amount of time at home, and if they're unequal, something's unfair, something's out of whack. And so alignment is really a more flexible concept because it can take away that tug of war, right? When we're trying to be in balance, we feel like we're playing a tug of war sometimes between work and between home, which can lead to feelings of guilt and feelings of resentment. But that idea of alignment's a little more flexible. And that is what we're going to focus on. We're going to look at this concept of work-life balance today through the lens of aligning the different aspects of our life. So, work is an important part of your life, right? That helps pay bills, that helps do fun things, that helps you put food on your table. It's incredibly important, right? But your personal time and your relationships are also a really important part of your life. So, the desired goal of creating that alignment in life is to create harmony and integration across all of the different areas of your life, which can then help you direct your energy to creating a more meaningful life. So that sounds really good. For some people, they think that sounds too good to be true and they want to learn a little more on how to do that. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to kind of take that concept of work-life balance, we're going to kind of put that on the back burner, and we're going to start to think about alignment in our life and what that looks like and whether we're aligned right now or whether we're not, and what we can do to get to that spot. So, the first part in reaching alignment in our life is to be really crystal clear on what our values are. What is most important to you? What are the must-haves in your life? I think we can all agree that life is a precious thing. We don't know how much time we have. We don't know when that time will run out. And it's really important that we make sure that we are living our life in alignment with the things that we value and the things that are most important to us. You can see your values more clearly if this is something you haven't thought about before. It could be really helpful to spend some time thinking about things like what brings you joy, what people, places, or things are sources of energy for you. What are things that drain your energy? What are some of the most memorable experiences in your life and why are they important? Some examples of things people value are family, community, contribution, right? Personal growth, being outdoors, reading, friendships, learning, spirituality, healthy eating, or living a healthy lifestyle. I think you get the idea what some of those values are. If you haven't thought about this before, if you feel like you need help clarifying what your individual values are, one tool that can be helpful in narrowing that down is something called a values list. There are many different values lists available online. Just go to your favorite search engine and type values list, and they are essentially just handouts that list a variety of different values. And what you do when you have that values list is you're going to go through and you're going to review the different values that are listed on the sheet, and you're going to start to circle the ones that are priorities for you, the things that are most important to you. And then you're going to cross off the things that don't feel like priorities for you. There's no right, there's no wrong answer. Everybody's values are going to look different, and that's okay. And you continue this process of circling and identifying your top priorities, crossing off the ones that aren't as valuable for you, and continue that until you've identified your top 3 to 5 values. And those are the things then that would be really helpful for you to spend some time reflecting on your life and your lifestyle, and if you're living in alignment with those values. So that's one way that you can kind of hone in on what those values are if that seems like a difficult thing to do. The next step is to assess your current work, right? So, our gut feelings about work are a really powerful guide on how in alignment or out of alignment life may be. So, when your alignment is totally out of whack, you're going to know. So, you'll maybe wake up and dread going into work, or you might find yourself overreacting to situations at work. Small situations seem really big. Or maybe you're relatively content in your workplace. If so, a number of things are probably already aligned with your values within the work that you're doing. So, to assess how well your current work situation is aligned with your life and your values, you can ask yourself what aspects of your work bring you excitement, and what do I want more of that I'm not getting? Right? We can't change our current work situation in an instant, but it's easy to start making some changes when we have identified what we want more of and what might be lacking. So maybe once we identify those things, it's a conversation with a supervisor or a manager on how more of those things that bring you excitement or enjoyment can be incorporated into your work. Or maybe if something's lacking, how you can have more of that in your current role. So, when you're thinking about work, when you're assessing work, you want to consider some of these different things, right? The kind of work you do. Are you enjoying it? Is it fulfilling? What about your workload? Is it manageable? I feel like today, so many different places are working short-staffed and workloads feel very unmanageable. So that's definitely a factor. You want to consider the coworkers and the team that you're working with. If you're feeling disconnected from them, try to find ways to connect and get to know people and have those work-related and personal-related interactions with them. Consider your workplace culture. How can you contribute to the culture in your workplace in a positive way? Or if you feel like you have a toxic work environment, how can you put some boundaries around the negativity or the challenges that you're experiencing at work? Right? Think about your leaders and your managers. What are you getting from them that's helpful? And what could you use that would be helpful that you might not be getting? Think about personal or your professional growth and development. That's really important. Is this supported in your workplace? For some people, that's a really big priority that they have continued professional development, and for others, it's not. And then other things, right? There are other areas to consider based on your individual job, your individual position, where you are in your stages of life that aren't listed here. So this isn't an all-inclusive list. So if something else pops into your mind when you're reflecting on your job that's not here, definitely add that to the list of considerations. And if that's contributing to your life feeling aligned or not. So what after we assess alignment at work, we want to then assess life alignment outside of work. And we're going to ask ourselves those same questions. And what aspects of my life do I experience excitement? And what do I want more of that I'm not getting? Okay. Again, once you've identified what's lacking or what you want more of, you can start to take action on bringing alignment into your life. So when you're considering and when you're assessing your life outside of work, definitely want to consider your family, those you live with, your extended family, the people who you consider family members by choice. Are you spending enough time with them? Are you spending too much time with them? Are there shifts that you want to make in that? Consider friendships and other relationships, activities that bring you happiness and joy. That might be lunch with friends. It could be going golfing or dancing, something fun, something small. Do you have time for those? Do you need more of those activities? Consider your health and well-being. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in a couple minutes, but what areas would you like to make changes to be living a healthier life? Consider whether you feel a sense of purpose in your life or not. If not, what could you do to help fill that desire if you have a need for more purpose? And then what feels like it's missing, right? Maybe you don't travel as much as you'd like. Maybe you'd like to grow your support network, or maybe you'd like more adventure, right? What can you do to bring those things into your life? Okay, so once you've identified your values, once you've assessed work alignment, once you've assessed your personal life alignment, step three is starting to realign your life. Okay, so we're going to work towards realigning our life with our values. It's important to know that this is going to take patience. It just takes time. Making the changes necessary is not a quick process. We didn't get out of alignment in one day, so we can't get back in alignment in one day. For some, it might take longer than others, and that's okay, right? You want to lean into the things that you want more of. So if you're currently doing some of these things, if you're currently doing some of these things, lean into them more. Do those activities more. On the opposite side of that, when you find things that don't serve you, let them go. Right now, sometimes we can't always let things go at work. I can't decide that I'm not going to do a certain task that's required, right? But if there are things that are dispensable and that aren't required, you're doing something extra or something that you don't need to do, definitely let that go if it's possible. Okay. Another thing that can be important to let go of is high standards. So many people have high performance standards of themselves. We're working towards this state of perfectionism, perfect work, perfect participation, perfect attendance. And that can really conflict with values, right? Perfection is an unattainable benchmark. And so we just exhaust ourselves trying to reach that place. And so it can be really helpful to let that go. And once we can do that, that can help other parts of our life feel like they're coming into alignment. And then delegating tasks that don't serve you, if possible, again, right? Maybe you need to shift positions into one that aligns more with your values, or maybe there are certain things that you can delegate to a coworker or someone else in your family, and that might serve them better than what it serves you. If this feels difficult, the process of aligning, know that EAP can help you with that task and that process, and provide some support for you along that way or along your way. So, creating life alignment is not something we do once and then we're done, right? It's a process. It's just like our car, right? We take our car in for regular oil changes, regular routine maintenance, things like that. It's like that when we're trying to align our life as well. So, to do this, it's really important that we look for signs that you're out of alignment. Okay. And that might look like poor quality sleep, right? Maybe you wake up many times or you're not getting enough sleep. Maybe you're short-tempered at work or at home. You're quick to anger or have a big reaction. You might notice appetite changes like you overeat or you stress eat, or maybe you're not eating as much as you should. It could be feeling overwhelmed or anxious, maybe difficulty following through on commitments or prioritizing tasks. There are a lot of other things that can be signs that your life is out of alignment, and these will be very individual as well. So when you notice the signs that you are out of alignment, it's important that you recognize those and work to start repairing them. So there are some strategies that can help us with this along the way. The first that we're going to talk about is our wellness needs. Wellness needs are really important, taking care of ourselves. Healthy boundaries are also important, and having a plan for self-care is important. So I want to explain a little bit about each of these, why they're important, how they help along our journey to creating that life alignment. And again, everyone is in a different spot with all of these. So I can't just give you a formula on how to implement these because everybody's in a different place. So as we're going through these different strategies, think about where you are. Think about how well you do around your wellness needs or the kind of boundaries that you put in place, or what kind of self-care you have, and really reflect internally to see if there's an area that could use some growth and development for you. So the first area we're going to talk about, or the first strategy we're going to talk about, are the dimensions of wellness, right? This is an area that can really help us explore our well-being. And when we talk about well-being, we often think primarily of physical health, exercise, nutrition, things like that. But well-being is so much more than that. So to help explore our well-being, we can use something called the dimensions of wellness. This is a concept on the different aspects of our life that help us live a lifestyle of wellness and yeah, wellness and balance, essentially. And so there are several different models of wellness. Some have 6 dimensions, some have 7, some have 8. But the idea is that each of these different areas of well-being are intertwined to our overall well-being. And so if we're lacking in one or two of these areas, that can impact our well-being in other areas. And that can also influence our ability to reach a good life alignment. So these are probably pretty obvious, but the physical dimension of wellness is all about exercise, good nutrition, eating a balanced diet, getting rest, taking good care of your body. The relational or social dimension of wellness is all about your relationships. Are your relationships satisfying? What kind of relationships do you have? Maybe this is an area you want to build a support network or additional connections. Occupational wellness is all about work, right? How satisfying our work is, what our attitude is like towards our work. Emotional wellness is all about recognizing our feelings and managing our emotions, coping with stress, and the strategies we use for that, or maybe the development of strategies to help manage our emotions and grow that emotional intelligence. Intellectual wellness is all about mental challenge. How mentally challenged are you at work or at home? How do you expand your knowledge or your skills? Is that something that's important to you? Is it not important to you? Are you getting enough in that area? Spiritual wellness is all about beliefs and values around your purpose and your meaning in life, and that comes from different places for different people. For some people, it's a very faith-based focus. For other people, it is more meditative and more meditative and inward centered. So that is another. And the last, financial wellness, is definitely related to money. Finance is how we're spending, how we're saving, how we're doing in that area. And so it can be helpful to think about how we might sabotage our wellness due to stress, neglect, illness, and not even maybe not knowing our values, right? Like maybe we stress eat when we're overly stressed or overwhelmed, or maybe we go shopping to help cope with stress, things that aren't aligning with taking the best care of ourselves. So when it comes to these dimensions of wellness, it's important to consider if your needs are met. Are they met at home? Are they met at work, in the community, in your relationships, or somewhere else? Working in an elementary school, you might log 20,000 steps a day, right? Chasing all those kids around back and forth down the hallway. So you might not need to put as much effort into maybe physical wellness outside of work. But for someone who has a sedentary job, that who's sitting all day, not getting much movement, that might be an area that needs more time or focus or attention. So working to become more well-rounded in the dimensions of wellness is really worth the time and the effort. Making improvements in one area will help improve your sense of balance and wellness in the rest of your life. So that can be really important. Okay. Well, I think, okay, healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries is is another strategy to help us attain work-life alignment. So when we talk about boundaries, we are just essentially thinking about the limits or the lines that we create around different aspects of our life. So boundaries can be very rigid and very firm. This might be the coworker you have who leaves work at 4:30 every day, no matter what. That's an example of a more rigid boundary. A more flexible boundary, or a more porous boundary, might be the person who maybe stays at work later, or maybe they leave at 4:30, but they take work home with them to do at night. So take a moment to reflect on the kind of boundaries that you set in your life at work and at home. Um, right? Is there room for change or more identification of where your boundaries lie? Sometimes we don't think about boundaries very often, so we're not really sure how sometimes we're very rigid and sometimes we're very porous and sometimes we're more consistent. So think about what those boundaries are like for you. Setting reasonable expectations for yourself is also a really important part of creating healthy boundaries. So, again, those expectations that you have for yourself at work and those expectations that you have for yourself at home, can they coexist in a way that creates a sense of alignment for you? Or do some changes need to be made? Focus your attention on one or the other when you're in that space, work, or when you're at home. Be sure to be present and engaged in those moments. You don't want to be at home thinking about work or at work thinking about home. Now, sometimes that happens, right? But that shouldn't be a normal or a regular occurrence. And make yourself dispensable at work and at home. I think this is a really different concept because we're so used to wanting to be indispensable. Indispensable. If we're indispensable, we have job security, right? If nobody else can do what we can do, if nobody else knows how to do that, or if we've got special skills or talents in an area that no one else has, right? That gives us job security, which we really enjoy having that. But when we're indispensable in any part of our life, it can be really difficult to create a sense of alignment because you're always being pulled to that role where you're indispensable. So that's an interesting point to consider, making yourself dispensable. Okay. So boundaries are a huge part of reaching that life alignment. And so is self-care. Self-care refers to the things that you do for yourself to keep yourself healthy. I think everybody knows that. When we think of self-care, we tend to think of things like spa days, massages, golfing, fishing, um, manicures, things like that, getting our hair done. Those are examples of self-care. But they're not the only examples of self-care. Self-care also includes some deeper things. Self-care can be creating boundaries with people or creating boundaries around tasks. Self-care can be getting enough sleep, purging negativity from our life, healing old trauma, and the list goes on and on. So there's a lot of different things that can be self-care that we might not consider, right? That aren't as beautiful or as fun as a spa day or going golfing, but that are also just as important. So that can be helpful to think about too. Um, what kind of self-care do you do for yourself? Do you have a self-care plan? Some people have a very formal plan of a process or a routine or things that they do every day as part of their self-care. If you don't, and if you feel this is an area where you could grow or develop to help influence that sense of life alignment, then definitely consider creating that self-care plan. And when you're identifying that self-care plan, you can think about needs that aren't being met. It could be sleep, it could be quiet time, it could be just finding time for an activity that brings you joy. Consider how you'll meet these needs. Maybe you can go to bed an hour earlier. You can read a book for 30 minutes before falling asleep, or really putting on your calendar an activity that you enjoy once every couple weeks, right? Put yourself on the list. Make yourself and your needs a priority. So often, that's something we don't do. We make our list, but maybe we're at the bottom, and there's so many things above us on the list that if we even can get close to it, that feels like a miracle, right? So very rarely do we get to actually meeting our own personal and self-care needs. So make sure you put yourself on the list, but not only at the bottom, bump yourself up to the top of that list. Set boundaries and limits on your time, right? To help carve out time for your own self-care. That's really important, sometimes challenging to do, but really important. Ask for what you need. If you need time alone, if you need time with a friend, if you need help with something, it's important to ask. Your wants and needs matter just as much as everyone else's. And then when you're considering that self-care plan, definitely make time for fun, for pleasure, and again, those activities of joy. Okay. So we all have 24 hours in a day, right? I think sometimes many of us probably wish that we had more. I know some days I do, but we have 24 hours in a day, and you get to choose how you spend them. We can either live with the tension or the discomfort trying to reach that never-ending quest for balance between work and home. Or we can shift to that concept of alignment that's a little more flexible, that aligns with our that aligns with our values, to create a life filled with meaning, purpose, and happiness. So, which do you prefer? It's up to you. If work-life balance is comfortable for you, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that concept. But for some people, the concept of life alignment works better for them. So you get to choose. And just to note that EAP is here to help you find that life alignment. So if this feels like an area you want to spend some time working on, and you might need a little support beyond the conversation that we're having around this today, don't hesitate to look into using your EAP benefit. You can visit us online, www.ascensioneap.org. There's information on there where you can meet our staff. You can check out our online resources. There's so much great information on the website. You can link to our YouTube channel that has so many different past lunch and learns and other presentations on there. And you can also find out how to schedule an appointment if you'd like to talk with someone about attaining that work life, or attaining the concept of alignment between work and home life. Or if you would like to schedule an appointment to talk with a counselor about something else too, you can do that from our website. So here is all that contact information. We covered so much information today around work-life balance, looking at things through the lens of life alignment, ways and strategies to do that. Does anyone have any questions? I'm happy to try and answer questions for you. You can put them in the chat, or if you would like to unmute and ask a question, that's fine too. But definitely want to make sure we get those questions answered if anyone has them. Okay. Well, I will stay here for a few minutes. Thank you so much for joining us for our Lunch and Learn today. Again, this will be recorded, so if you thought this was good information and you'd like to share it with someone in your family or a coworker, this recording will be up on our YouTube channel in the next couple days. Oh, good. Love the concept of alignment versus balance. Good. I'm glad that that resonated for you. So this presentation will be available on our YouTube channel, and if you want to reach out to us, please don't hesitate to do that. We are here to help and support and keep everyone healthy and well. So yeah, thank you for joining us today, and we will see you for our next Lunch and Learn, hopefully. Have a good
Thank you,
day.
Erin. Have a
Yeah,
good
you're
day. Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.